Hello, good evening, and welcome to News 360, live from our news hub here in Accra. My name is Pa Kwesiasare.
And I'm Natalie Fort. As we go through this bulletin, remember streaming live on 3news.com as well as TV3 Ghana on Facebook, so you can catch us there. Let's take a look at the headlines for the next 1 hour. "26 persons suspected to have been involved in murder of Major Maxwell Mahama released. Meanwhile, the court has ordered 17-year-old suspects to be sent to the Botsel home.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by
Minority in Parliament challenges government to halt the sale of fertilizer and revert to free distribution policy implemented by the Mahama administration.
Also in the bulletin, Narcotics Control Board donates movable assets confiscated from jailed drug baron Nayele Ametefe to charity.
In business, movie retail shops at Opera Square in Accra fold up due to low patronage.
And on the foreign front, about 100 people reported killed in latest outbreak of religious violence in eastern town of Brea in Central African Republic.
We've got details of these and many more stories coming up in the next 60 minutes. Also remember that your views, comments and suggestions are welcome on any of our social media pages on Facebook and on Twitter. Now, police in the Major Mahama murder trial have released 5 suspects from the Volta region who were arrested in Asankragua over the death of a soldier. Now, prosecution had indicated they had no evidence linking them to the murder. The 5 suspects have been speaking exclusively to my colleague, Komla Kluche.
Ghana Police, which is investigating the gruesome murder of Major Maxwell Mahama, the case brought before the magistrate court in Accra Wednesday morning, have discharged or released this 5 suspects until this afternoon. They were in the custody of the police. Police, after appearing before court, said they had no strong evidence against some 27 persons who were in their custody. 32 of them strongly linked to the murder of Major Maxwell Mahama. These 5 were part of the 27 and have been released subsequently to go home. They're here with us here exclusively on TV3. We're just going to find out from them, their names. There are 5. They can't express themselves very well in the English language. They speak Ebe, so I'll try and speak Ebe with them and find out exactly what their names are, what they went to with the police. Komla Doku. Who lewe de enyaka uchi nawe?
Obiambe manyanto soja yeke kontinent. Embe manyan anyaka jongu.
His name is Komla Doku. He is saying that when they arrested him, they said they were holding him in connection with the murder of Major Maxwell Mahama. But he told them he didn't know anything about it. He insisted that he had absolutely no knowledge of it. And he is also saying that, well, they are only cocoa farmers. They moved from the Volta region to the western region to go and work on some cocoa farms. This is exactly what he's saying to them. Let me just get from this other person. Now, let's call you now.
Francis.
Francis, who lewen enyakawo biawe enukawo ekpole sele here no.
Sela matwe asanka gwa sela. Gama ya umatritimi good kurao. Aga kwa mi va down nima akwa no problem ala kama. Yaka police wala mi ha mi challenge you be duoma gama toto ha mi nya duomo mi esegama nko ha kpo no dia o ko duoma to ba lo no komi duoma na duoma ta no akpoba mienya gama alo mienya gama ha.
His name is Francis. He's saying that when they arrested him, well, I mean, equally they treated them very fairly, but they challenged the police that, well, they had absolutely nothing to do with the case, insisting on it. Even in the statement that they gave, they were very consistent that even they were strangers in the town where they arrested them. They don't even know the place. Now, but I'm just going to speak with the chief a little bit in a short while, and then I find out how this is going to be very difficult for them. Toby, you have worked tirelessly to get them out of the custody of the police. How Herculean was it for you?
Really, all can't be mentioned now, but it was really Herculean. I would just thank the Ghana Police Service for the good work done. It shows that really there's rule of law.
Many people who were calling them names, chanting, I mean, accusing them that yes, they are the murderers and all of that. How difficult is it going to be for you to reintegrate them back into the society?
You see, as a psychologist, I have done some part of the work already with them. Even when they were in cell, we were visiting them. I built their ego, and then they should be proud and know that it's just a lesson. It could happen to you, me, because you are just a suspect. So this one, it has rather grown a sort of passion, a feeling for them.
How soon are they going back to the area?
We are going this evening to Pota to pour a libation for Almighty God, and then tomorrow they are leaving for Awianfutu and the Apia Chrome.
They can only express joy, and you can see them on their faces, and the wish to be reintegrated back into society. But to a very large extent, they have been full of praise for the Ghana Police Service for the investigations carried out and believing that the Ghana Police Service has ensured that it's rule of law. Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
Meanwhile, prosecution in the major Maxwell Mahama murder trial will commence committal of 32 suspects following what it describes as strong evidence linking them to the charge of murder and conspiracy to murder on July 6. 27 of the suspects have been discharged but in police custody pending further investigations to be linked to the crime. Here's a report by Komla Kluche.
The suspect and the heavy police protection. All 58 of them bundled into these trucks. Lined up with special numbers, they are headed for the courtroom. Their second appearance, the 58 accused persons ready to appear before the court. Emotional, some of them are from the pictures because they're very emotional. Some still walked barefooted despite the court's direction at the last sitting for prosecution to ensure they are properly dressed. Some relatives of the suspects showed up in court to offer solidarity but would not go on record. State prosecutors, after appearing in court on Wednesday morning, had one purpose: to consolidate 3 different charge sheets into one. For the first time, the 7 suspects, including Assemblyman of the Dentro Boase electoral area, who were discharged from the Cape Coast court, joined other suspects in court. We attempted to get a comment from William Bard, Assemblyman. The prosecution, led by DSP George Amega, told the court the state was ready for committals for 32 of the suspects. More investigation is required, he noted, pleading for time. The magistrate, Ebenezer Kwekuansa, adjourned proceedings to July 6 for prosecution to commence with its committal. 27 of them, they have indicated that they're still investigating them. The court, however, has discharged them, but the police will be holding them temporarily as investigations continue into the matter. Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
Meanwhile, the Accra District Court, hearing the murder case of the late Major Maxwell Adams Mahama, has ordered prosecution to send 17-year-old Ebenezer Samoa to a Bolster Institute. Ebenezer Samoa was picked up as one of the 58 suspects in connection with the murder.
Amongst the 58 suspects presented to court on Wednesday is a 17-year-old. The 17-year-old is a minor and is to be sent to a juvenile center as stipulated by law. As such, after the prosecution consolidated its charge sheet, which had 32 names including the 17-year-old, the magistrate, Ebenezer Kwekwansa, ordered prosecution to send him to a Bolster home. It will be recalled that Executive Director of Child Rights International, Brighter Pierre, raised concerns over a 12-year-old who they claim was allegedly being held by the police, also in connection with the murder of the late Major Maxwell Adams Mahama, a claim the police dismissed, adding they only interrogated the boy and let him go. This 17-year-old, who is a minor, hence cannot be tried, will be at the Bolster home until the court orders otherwise. The court, however, discharged some 26 persons after the prosecution hinted it was ready to start the committal process of 32 of the persons.
Let's turn our attention to other stories this evening, as the state, through the Narcotics Control Board, has donated movable assets confiscated from jailed drug barons to charity. Most of the items presented to the 3 rehabilitation centers belong to Nayele Ametefe from her Night Angels shop at Jolu in Accra.
The board, as part of measures towards the celebration of this year's World Narcotics Day, which falls on 26th of June, has given out to charity some movable assets that had been confiscated from drug barons that were arrested. But most of the things we see here today are for the infamous Nayele Ametepe, who was arrested some time back. This one, for instance, is coming from the Night Angels. This one is also coming from the Night Angels, which was to be sold at the price of 1,300.
If you are arrested on drug offenses, you are not allowed to enjoy the proceeds of the drug trade.
The items, mostly furniture and various types of lighting systems, were presented to the House of St. Francis Rehabilitation Center at Ashaiman, Defarek Rehab Center at Midye, and the Addictive Diseases Unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. According to NACOB, the building in which the Night Angels shop is located was rented and so cannot be confiscated, but other landed property, including the convict's house at East Legon and those in their hometown, are still under litigation. Meanwhile, the items, according to the beneficiaries, are not what they actually need at the moment, adding they are too luxurious for their setting. Transporting it to their centers was also a challenge.
We need things that the clients would need, mainly food items like rice, sugar, cooking oil. It's an offer being made, and then I don't think we can refuse it, but we hope that, in future, if it's possible for these things to be auctioned, and then maybe the proceeds, given to us.
The gesture, according to NACOB, was per court order, explaining the court refused their plea to auction the assets. Nayele Ametepe was arrested at Heathrow Airport in 2014 with 12 kg of cocaine and is currently serving an 8-year jail term in the UK.
Now, in line with the issue of Nayele Ametepe, the question we are asking is if drug couriers whose items are seized by the state can reclaim them in a few years to come, because this was the case with the Benjilo case of April 1997 of George Edubonsu, who was popularly known as Benjilo. He was a drug courier as well. His charge was dealing in narcotics drugs, and he was sentenced 10 years imprisonment. The assets confiscated by the state of his were 3 vehicles, namely GCM Typhoon, Mercedes-Benz, and a Nissan Pathfinder, while 2 houses were confiscated from Salaga Market, a house of his in Salaga Market in Accra, and Swalen Street in Accra as well. He, though, filed a case against the state and won, and was able to get his assets given back to him. So we are asking the question, can Nayele Ametepe, who's also known as Ruby Appiah, fall in the same situation a few years to come if she wants these items back? Nayele was charged with dealing in narcotic drugs as well, sentenced to 8 years imprisonment, and her items that were confiscated was, as you saw in the story earlier, some furniture and lighting systems. expensive lighting systems like chandeliers and the like. We also know that Nayele is said to have a house at East Legon, though it's not confirmed whether it's her home or her parents' home, and homes are in her hometown as well, which is still under litigation, so it's not clear if those items can be given back. But that's what we are asking and wondering whether she can want those items back, as was done in the earlier case. Pa?
Right, Natalie, thank you very much. Two other stories now. In some vehicles, including a presidential armored BMW saloon believed to be for the state, have been discovered at Interwem in the eastern region. The custodian of the vehicles claimed they are seized property by the courts.
The Presidential Task Force in charge of retrieving government property led the media to Oforikuma, a suburb of Nsawam, where a fleet of what is suspected to be state vehicles were found. The vehicles comprise one Toyota Land Cruiser, two Ford Expedition, a Jeep, Pajero, two Nissan pickup, and an armored BMW saloon. An angry custodian, Mr. Ba, who showed court documents, denied accusations the vehicles were stolen.
So the cars over here is not my own cars, which I bought it in with my pocket money. We are preserving for the court. So the cars over here, when you put it on the screen, one, you embarrass the owners of the vehicles.
But the task force argued a presidential armored car could not have been confiscated by the court.
And what he's saying is the car is a seized cars from court, and he did not mention the court name. We wanted to know. He said no, he will not mention the court name. We cannot judge it here. Our own is just pick the information and send the signal to Ghana government.
The task force, who could not retrieve the vehicles, promised to return after meeting their superiors.
And a few weeks into the Nana Addo-led administration, the Director of Communications at the Presidency, Eugene Ahin, disclosed that over 200 vehicles supposed to be at the Flagstaff House had gone missing. That subsequently generated controversy over government's appointees in the Mahama administration allegedly taking these vehicles away. Let's take a listen to what Eugene Ahin has said about this.
If you look at the documents provided to me by the transport officer, we were supposed to have had a total of about 196 Toyota Land Cruiser vehicles, V8 vehicles. You were supposed to have something like a Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, a total of about 73, and then Mercedes-Benz's, BMWs, and then other vehicles. But what we came to meet was something which surprised all of us. For example, you take a look at the Toyota Land Cruiser vehicles, which we're supposed to have a total of 196 Toyota Land Cruiser vehicles at the presidency. We only came to meet 74. So that means you have a total of 122, which you still cannot find. Toyota Land Cruiser Prados, total 73. We only came to meet 20. So you have 43 difference. You look at something like the Mercedes-Benz, there were 24 in total, we came to meet 11. Toyota Avalons, 28, we came to meet 2. BMWs, there were 6, we came to meet only 2. Just these 5 models account for 208 vehicles, which we strangely cannot find. The President of the Republic currently has virtually only one vehicle at his disposal. That is the vehicle which was purchased in 2007 during the Ghana 50 celebrations. It's a BMW. A vehicle for the President obviously comes with so many added security features just for the safety of the President. Here he is driving his own Land Cruiser when he's going on duty tours outside of Accra. It's certainly not the right thing, but this is the kind of situation we are confronted with. He unfortunately has to use his own vehicles because the vehicles meant for the presidency or vehicles meant for his use currently are not available. So at all costs, we have to do everything possible to make sure that we retrieve all those vehicles.
Now, away from missing state vehicles, the visiting Nigerian Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, has admitted security operatives in his country did not collaborate with their Ghanaian counterparts after the arrest of the alleged notorious kidnapper Chukwudidu Madike until his visit to Ghana, while the man known as Evans, who has been on the police wanted list for more than 7 years, is reported to have confessed to multiple high-profile kidnappings and collection of billions of naira as ransom across Nigeria.
Chukwudidu Madike, also known as Evans, was arrested by the Nigerian police on June 10 in his Magado mansion in Lagos State. He is reported to have kidnapped and placed ransom on over 20 individuals and families. The Nigerian Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris called for strengthening of collaboration between Ghanaian and Nigerian authorities to investigate the matter. Though he admitted there has been some level of collaboration between the two countries, there was no collaboration during the arrest of the alleged kidnapper.
This kidnapper, I was telling you, operates through some boys that he recruits both in Ghana and Nigeria. These are the people he used to effect, to carry out some of this kidnapping. And I think that's why I believe that it's very, very important for us to coordinate, to collaborate with each other so that we can succeed in addressing some of these criminal elements within our midst.
He explained the Nigerian police have averted 98% cases of kidnapping and is working to intensify the laws to make the criminal act unattractive.
What we are struggling on now is to have a change in the legislative arm to see whether they can make the punishment of kidnapping more severe.
He indicated he was not surprised the alleged kidnapper possessed a Ghanaian passport, urging the Ghanaian authorities to investigate the matter.
These are issues that I believe the security of this country will investigate further. You know, how this man came about, because I was just going through photocopy of the documents we have. I discovered that he was even using a wrong name, a sort of indigenous name to obtain the passport. So these are issues I think the security here have to go through.
He said Interpol will extend its investigation to Ghana, where he has invested some property. Investigations revealed the wife and 5 children are currently in Accra, while he owns 2 buildings in the Spintex Road at Bachona in Accra. On his Ghanaian passport is the name Asari Nelson.
Well, interesting issue there. You're still watching News 360, streaming live on 3news.com as well as TV3 Ghana on Facebook. We return with more news shortly. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on News 360. Good evening. My name is Nanekia Mensah Bampa, bringing you the latest in business updates. And starting with tonight, the minority in Parliament has asked government to stop the sale and revert to the free fertilizer distribution policy implemented by the Mahama administration. Addressing a news conference in Accra, minority spokesperson on agriculture, Eric Opoku, challenged the chief executive officer of Cocoa Board to make public funds accrued for the stabilization fund.
Minority spokesperson on agriculture Eric Opoku expressed disappointment the NPP administration has replaced the cocoa fertilization program, which included free fertilizer to farmers. Farmers are currently paying 80 cedis for a bag of fertilizer.
Under the free fertilization program, the cocoa farmer was entitled to 7.5 bags of granular fertilizer or 2 liters of liquid fertilizer per every hectare of cocoa farm. So a farmer who has 100 hectares of cocoa farm was given 750 bags of fertilizer free of charge. Today, under President Akufo-Addo, Bawumia government, the same farmer is to pay 60,000 Ghana cedis for the same 750 bags of fertilizer. This has exposed the Ghanaian cocoa farmer to intolerable levels of penury.
The group also indicated the producer price committee should be allowed to determine the price of cocoa and not the chief executive officer of the Cocoa Board, and asked Cocoa Board to make public the accrued stabilization funds. The minority therefore urged government to be sensitive to the plight of cocoa farmers in the country by halting the sale of fertilizer.
We head to the courts, where the Supreme Court, presided over by Chief Justice Ofaa Ekufu, has ruled in favor of the National Investment Bank over a $120 million suit brought against it by Dominion Corporate Trustee. Now, the bank was sued in 2010 by a foreign entity, Standard Bank Offshore Trust Company, which was later substituted by Dominion Corporate Trustee Limited.
The Commercial Division of the High Court on February 21, 2013 gave judgment against NIB in favor of Dominion Corporate Trustees Limited of Channel Islands, UK, for the recovery of the sum of $60 million plus interest with effect from January 29, 2009 to the date of final payment. Subsequently, the Appeals Court upheld the decision of the High Court after the bank attempted to quash the Commercial Court's decision. According to NIB, the debt arose from a fraudulent promissory note transaction carried out in 2007 with the connivance of the then managing director of the bank. It further stated that the transaction did not reflect in any of the books of the bank and was done on the blind side of the board of directors. But in a twist of events, the 9-member panel of the Supreme Court unanimously ruled in favor of NIB, thereby setting aside the judgment of both the High Court and Appeals Court that compelled NIB to pay over $120 million in judgment debt. According to the court, rulings by the High Court and Appeals Court had to be set aside since the identity of issuers of the promissory cannot be identified, raising issues with the capacity of investors.
Now, to another developing story. Government says it is confident of securing a favorable verdict from the International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea on the maritime boundary case between Ghana and Ivory Coast 2 months before the verdict. Energy Minister Boakye Agyarko says a favorable verdict would guarantee stability in the petroleum sector and open up opportunities for more investment.
The International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea is expected to deliver its judgment on the maritime boundary dispute between Ghana and Ivory Coast by the end of September. In February, the two countries ended their oral submissions to the tribunal with strong arguments for their stance. Attorney General and leader of Ghana's delegation to the tribunal, Gloria Ekufu, maintains Ivory Coast is trying to move the boundary to the east to benefit from Ghana's oil reserves. Energy Minister Boakye Agyarko says Ghana is optimistic about the outcome of the case.
The Ghana legal and technical teams have put in their very best efforts. Consequently, we are very hopeful of securing a favorable decision.
He says a favorable verdict will ensure an increase in investments in Ghana's hydrocarbon industry.
The ruling will provide investors with the certainty they need to make long-term investment decisions in this country.
Regulator of the upstream petroleum sector, Petroleum Commission, says players in the sector have a scheduled program of exploration to follow after the verdict.
We have only completed and are producing from 10 wells as a result of the provisional measures from the ITLOS. Hopefully by September end, we will have judgments and hopefully we'll be able to move on to drill the remainder of the 10 wells.
The Petroleum Commission organized a stakeholder forum under the theme Ghana's upstream petroleum industry, a decade after the commercial discovery of oil and gas.
All right, so we'll tell you how that verdict goes in that particular one. But that will do for business. There's more news on our website. It's 3news.com. I am Nanekia Mensah Brampa. Well, Pakwesi continues with something from the Institute of Economic Affairs.
Right, thanks very much, Nanekia Mensah Brampa, for the very latest in the world of business. In other news, the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, has lashed out at all presidents who offer appointments to party members after they have insulted other political parties on campaign platforms. The IEA is of the view such appointments tend to malign the integrity of the presidency, especially when the appointees are not qualified for the positions.
A research fellow with the Institute of Economic Affairs, Professor Jampo, was speaking at a forum organized by the IEA. The forum focused on the need to revive the excessive power that the president has as a result of the nature of the 1992 Constitution. Professor Jampo is of the view Appointment of CEOs and boards of public institutions should be done by a such team. He again argued that the appointment of Council of State members by the President tends to weaken the integrity of the Council. He is of the view the appointment of Inspector Generals of Police has affected the neutrality of the security service. Professor Jampo expressed concern on what he described as the politicization of the public and civil service.
We have destroyed our public service and our civil service. That's why regimes try to create and appoint new civil service when they come. The number of ministers would continue to be high so long as we do not trust our civil service.
He charged presidents to consider the appointment of members of other political parties.
The qualification for ministerial appointment should not be those who are able or capable of spewing invectives and mudslinging and inciting people at campaign rallies.
The Information Minister, Mustafa Hamid, however, disagreed.
My disagreement is premised on two things. The Constitution itself is premised on partisanship. The constitutional arrangements that we are operating states that a president must appoint the majority of ministers from parliament. Now that parliament is composed on the basis of partisanship.
Meanwhile, the former Shraj boss, Justice Emil Short, has proposed to government to restart operations by the Constitution Review Commission.
Well, you're still watching News 360 live from our news hub here in Accra.
Absolutely. We'll bring you more news shortly from the world of sports. Stay with us.
Hello, Sports News Time now. We'll give you an update on ongoing Confederations Cup games, but let's begin from an issue that's been dominating the sports media for the last few days, because there's growing tension between the Ghana Amateur Boxing Federation and the Ministry of Youth and Sports after the national boxing team were denied funding by the ministry for the African Boxing Championship, which also serves as the qualifiers for the World Championship in Germany later this year. Nanekwe Amankwa and Pearl Ojiyen Efe have been exploring the issues at the heart of the controversy.
This feud highlights a running theme in the grievances that many sports bodies have against the Ministry of Youth and Sports, that they do not get the funding required for major tournaments. The Africa Championship in Congo would have served as qualifiers for the World Championship in Germany, but instead of Brazzaville, the boxers were at the Accra Sports Stadium today training. That is because the Ministry of Youth and Sports won't provide the money required for the trip. The ministry says there were too many discrepancies in the budget the Amateur Federation presented and have raised questions with how monies released in the past were not properly accounted for. Pius Hajide is the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports.
We are using the people's money. When we give you money for a project, you need to properly come and account for it and retire it to justify your demand for more. A failure to do that would mean that we need to ask questions. We haven't seen any major program of amateur boxing development.
The National Amateur Federation disputes those claims. Its president, George Lamte, says the ministry must understand it has a responsibility to less funded sports like amateur boxing.
One of the issues is that we have not been organizing local boxing. It's never true. In Ghana, if we prepare our boxers very well, we can bring gold or silver or bronze. We have to spend on them, give them international exposure.
Meanwhile, while the bodies feud, the boxers stay at it in the gyms with no clue if their championship dreams have been dashed for good. The damage to their careers may be irreversible, according to coach of the side.
These things happens, and when it happens, it affects them in terms of they start to change their mind. They think of going to professional. It's making us taking new face into competitions.
I will keep you updated on further developments as far as that story is concerned. On to some issues relating to career movement. And Emmanuel Ajimambedu is looking to engineer a move away from Udinese after 10 years at the Italian club. The Ghanaian midfielder says there are no definite plans at the moment for him to leave the Serie A, but is convinced it is time to seek new challenges with the English Premier League his preferred destination.
Contract with Udinese. I respect the team. I've been saying this all the time. It's a blessing club for Ghana players. You all know what the likes of Mohamed Gago, Stephen Appiah, Kwadwo Asamoah and Solomon Tari have done for the club. So I respect it. But I think it's time I need new challenges. I've been there for 6 to 7 years now. I think I have done my part for the team and I need new challenges. But in all, I have contract. Next 2 or 3 weeks, I will know my destination. I just need fresh challenges. So if it is in Italy or outside, I will grab that opportunity. That's every player's dream to play in England, and if an offer comes from there, why not? I will go.
So effectively, Ajuman Bedu issuing a come and get me play to clubs in the English Premier League. Let's do some updates from the ongoing Confederation Cup. At the moment happening is Mexico up against New Zealand. New Zealand took a shock first half lead, but Mexico have clawed their way back. They're leading by 2-1. Earlier in the day, Cristiano Ronaldo scored in the 9th minute to give Portugal a 1-0 win over Russia. As a result, that as things stands now, will keep them level on top of that group with Mexico. Later tomorrow, Cameroon take on Australia, needing to win. Germany are up against Chile. It's a clash between the 3rd and 4th best sides in the world per the FIFA rankings. And that Ronaldo goal will not surprise many of you. He's become effectively the biggest goal-scoring machine in world football. But just take a look at what this goal means in terms of the consistency. He's now scored in every major international competition he's played. It means he scored in the World Cup. He scored against Ghana in Brasilia in a 2-1 win for Portugal. He scored in the European Championship when Portugal won the title. He scored in the Olympic Games. And today, he scored in the Confederations Cup as well. So, at international level, Ronaldo delivering the goals in the same way that he does at club level.
Welcome back to News 360. Time now for some entertainment news. In entertainment this evening, comedian DKB and former First Lady Nana Konadu-Agyeman-Rawlings have patched up their differences 2 months after the former First Lady described DKB as boring. DKB, who spent some moments with the former First Lady, said the latter advised him to tone down on sharing vulgar jokes. He spoke to Nana Somwa Edujemia.
DKB was a headline performer at the Easter comedy show last April. Halfway into his performance, Nana Konadu-Agyeman-Rawlings, who found his jokes rather offensive and unexciting, walked out of the venue. Nana Konedu's comment exposed the comedian to public ridicule.
What it comes with, the public ridicule, the rejection, the betrayal, exposing me for insult and all of that, is the very painful bit. Some few people are making it look like I've not been good before.
The comedian on Monday shared a video of himself and the former First Lady in a hearty chat.
I approached her and we spoke. I was like, "Hey Mom, what's up?" And she was like, "Yeah." And she started laughing. I started laughing, and then I was like, "I know what happened last time, blah, blah, blah." She was like, "Oh, okay, that's good to know." And then, so I told her, once again, sorry and thank you so much for the opportunity. So she even offered a hand first to shake. If you watch the video, I was like, oh, this is nice.
DKB said the unexpected meeting was a fine opportunity to iron out few issues. The comedian noted the former First Lady advised him to always research about his audience before he hits the stage.
She said that, that night was just too much of unadulterated content, the vulgarity, and it was just too much. So rather we should focus on toning down a bit to fit an all-round audience, because you might not know who is in the audience, which is true, because in your mind, it's an adult show, but some people might come with their kids. Now I've really learned to be humble in all circumstances.
DKB said his best is yet to come, urging fans to keep supporting him.
My one-man show will come back this year, and then Comedy Express, the monthly comedy show, will come back in less than 2 or 3 months' time. So I'll do them proud, We'll blow the comedy and everybody will see our works.
Indeed, DKB will make us proud. He will do us proud. You're still watching News 360 live from my news hub. We'll take a short break when we return for the very latest in international news. The National Fire Service has blamed the upsurge in electrical fires in recent times on prepaid meters on poles outdoor. The service says it has recorded 293 electrical-related fire outbreaks between January and June 19 this year.
According to the Fire Service, 2,353 fire outbreaks have been recorded between January and June 19 this year. Out of the figure, 593 were out before the firefighters got to the scene. The electrical fires include those on electricity poles, transformers, panels, underground cables, and particularly prepaid meters on poles.
Especially when it is showering or raining, we are on the view that probably because water enters those meters, that is why we normally have this meter fires. So many attempts during rain we are called and we attend those meter fires. So something needs to be done about it.
At a day's workshop on management of fire hydrants and measures to curb the upsurge in electricity fires, Operations Manager of the electricity company, Anthony Esiape, said the company will look into the matter and find solutions to it. He noted theft to vital cables to the poles could not be ruled out as possible cause of the fire outbreaks.
We have adequate protection to cater for the surges. That is why sometimes when it is raining or it's about to rain and there's a surge, you see the light going off. What we've noticed is that some of the protective devices and then the cabling for them have been stolen. So in effect, it has rendered the protection useless. It could be some of the cause for these fires, especially during the rains.
Bring you more on that in our subsequent bulletins. Let's now turn our attention to what's making news on the international front.
About 100 people are reported to have been killed in the latest outbreak of religious violence in the eastern town of Bria in the Central African Republic. Dozens more are said to be receiving treatment, mainly for gunshot wounds. BBC reports say the fighting began Tuesday between Muslim Seleka rebels and the Christian anti-Balaka militia hours after the government had signed a peace agreement with rebel groups. UN peacekeepers ran regular patrols in Bria. A high court in Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, has ruled that the eviction of up to 30,000 people from a waterfront slum violated the people's right, as there is no resettlement plan for them. The Lagos state government cleared the community of Otodogbame between November 2016 and February this year on the grounds the area posed an environmental risk. The judge also ruled Lagos State should pay compensation to residents and ordered the two sides to go into mediation.
Well, that's all for